Our staff's morale is probably better than it's been in a long time because the numbers are down. But I think to some extent, the news that we're seeing today is going to chill them a little bit about what could lie ahead, because the experience of Delta was very traumatic.
Officials in Washington are worried after seeing a decline in about everything COVID-related: cases, hospitalizations, and ICU capacity. Now a new strain could bring us back to record highs.
Now countries around the world are slamming their doors shut to keep the new variant at bay. But with little research so far, there are more questions than answers tonight. Good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News at 6. I'm Mark Hanrahan.
It's good to have you here. I'm Whitney Ward. Washington health officials now calling the news of Omicron's spread unsettling. As COVID cases decline across the state, there is renewed concern of a surge much like we had with the Delta variant earlier this year. Researchers at the University of Washington say while not much is known about Omicron just yet, all variants of the coronavirus have the potential to be deadly.
We don't have any information to suggest that symptoms due to Omicron are any different from any of the other variants. And please remember that all variants are capable of causing severe disease. And that is really why, just as Cassie was stressing, prevention of infection, primarily through vaccination, is so important.
The consensus among Washington health officials is there are too few cases of this variant to say anything for sure right now about its transmission rate and its vaccine resistance. Right now, there are big questions about the new variant, and the research into finding answers about how dangerous it is will come from right here in Washington.
Tonight, Glenn Farley with our sister station in Seattle is visiting a lab that will be studying the Omicron spike protein within days.
When you get a vaccine against COVID-19, how long will it last? And specifically, how well will it protect us against the new Omicron variant?
Very interesting stuff you're doing.
And this lab at the University of Washington Medical School is here specifically to answer those questions.
So we have banked samples where we can say after one vaccine, after two vaccines, after a booster, how do you respond to this new variant?
Marion Pepper is interim chair of immunology at UW Medicine in South Lake Union.
There are a lot of really good scientists here in Seattle who spent a lot of time over Thanksgiving break thinking about how we're going to best get the information we need to know if we're going to have a real problem here or not.
And within days, right here in this lab, they will test antibodies, blood of those vaccinated, and even samples from people who've only experienced natural infection against the spike protein. Some tests will have the protein attached to another virus.
There are a lot of different ways that we can look at how immune cells respond. So we can take a piece of the Omicron spike protein, which is the outside of that variant, and we can add it to these cells and see if the cells can recognize it, and then we can measure how they respond to that piece. So that's one of the types of reagents we look for. We can also take antibodies from people's blood and put that in a dish with the real variant and see if those antibodies can prevent that variant from infecting cells. So there are a lot of different ways that we can do this.
Another lab will test against the Omicron virus itself, but Pepper says it's not just about antibodies.
Antibodies are one part of this. There are B cells and T cells that have a broader ability to respond that are also going to be able to be reactivated in people.
Glenn Farley, KREM 2 News.
If you are considering getting vaccinated or looking for a booster dose, the Washington Department of Health says demand for the vaccine is especially high right now. You can use the vaccine locator on the Department of Health's website, though, to find an appointment near you.
And we know you may have a lot of questions about this new variant or about vaccine boosters.
So for the very latest, just text us the word COVID to 509-448-2000 and we'll send a link your way directly to your phone. All right, now to more of the day's top headlines. The trial of a former Pasco police officer accused of strangling a Spokane woman back in 1986 began today. 57-year-old Richard Aguirre was charged with first-degree murder last September for the killing of Ruby Doss. He was previously charged with her murder back in 2015, but that case was dismissed in 2017 due to a lack of evidence. According to court documents, investigators believe Aguirre had a sexual encounter with Doss and at some point a fight occurred. Police say his DNA matched evidence found at the crime scene.
Court documents show Doss suffered blunt force trauma to her head and neck and died of strangulation. A longtime friend of his, Aguirre's, told investigators that he admitted to him he, quote, hit a woman in the head and choked her. Aguirre's attorney says, though, he has an alibi, a certified copy of his Air Force records that show he was in Korea at the time of Doss's death. If he is found guilty of first-degree murder, Aguirre could face life in prison. A man was shot in the chest in a Spokane Valley restaurant parking lot Sunday after confronting two people who were firing a gun. That's according to investigators. And according to new court documents, the shooting took place at around 2 Sunday morning in the parking lot of Mirando's Bar and Restaurant. So one victim was driving out of the parking lot when he says he heard gunshots. He told police he turned around and confronted the two men firing that gun. He says that's when they started shooting at him. The victim was shot in the chest and drove himself to the hospital. He said he didn't know the shooters. Another victim also had a bullet graze to his neck and drove himself to the hospital as well. When police arrived on scene, they didn't find any of the suspects, but they later arrested 40-year-old Rafael Castellano for 2 counts of first-degree assault and possession of a stolen firearm. A party in a Spokane Valley over the holiday turned deadly after police say a man shot at his friends in his basement. Zachary McLaughlin is accused of killing one person and injuring 4 others early Friday morning. KREM 2's Amanda Rowley joins us now from the Spokane County Courthouse and shares what led up to that deadly shooting.
The victims who escaped this shooting alive told Spokane Valley police it was unprovoked and there were no arguments leading up to the incident. Still, many are grieving the loss of the man who died at that party Friday morning. According to Spokane County Court documents, 5 people went to Zachary McLaughlin's house to hang out in his basement late Thursday night. They all admitted to Spokane Valley police they were drinking alcohol and using drugs that night. At about 4:30 Friday morning, each of the victims told detectives they saw McLaughlin go into another room in the basement and heard a loud bang. That's when they saw one of their friends fall over and crash into a coffee table. Court documents say the suspect came back into the room with a pistol and fired it multiple times. The victims took cover behind nearby furniture. Once McLaughlin stopped shooting, the 4 remaining victims ran outside the house and drove away to call police. Court documents say the suspect admitted to shooting at the victim, but he claims the victim shot at him first. Investigators recovered only 1 pistol from the scene. Family and friends identified the victim who died as 29-year-old Destin Cooper. Court documents say he was found dead at the scene with traumatic head injuries. As news of Cooper's death spread, it's become clear the number of lives he touched. Those who knew him are still processing this loss. Some of his closest friends told me they call him a brother and best friend. They say he was caring, funny, and always showed up for them. By sharing these photos and videos of Cooper, those who love him hope they will show just how much his light will be missed. Spokane Valley police arrested McLaughlin for second-degree murder and 4 counts of first-degree assault. He made his first appearance in court today, and the judge kept his bond at $1 million. A GoFundMe account has been created to cover the funeral expenses for Cooper. There's also a gathering planned for this Friday from 12 to 5 p.m. at Stockwell's. Reporting from the Spokane County Courthouse, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
Now, your local Storm Tracker 2
And a lot of the same people that lost their house last week are trying to just get whatever they can to protect what they have left, which is probably the most heartbreaking thing.
Well, the National Guard and Border Patrol are stationed on the west side of the state as flooding once again threatens Whatcom County. Over the weekend, communities and volunteers came out to fill and deliver sandbags once again.
Rescue crews are now on standby for water rescues. Thankfully, these weather systems are not expected to be nearly as severe as the ones that caused historic flooding earlier this month. In the meantime, here on the east side, things have been pretty dry all day long, and by November standards, pretty warm.
Yeah, pretty warm indeed. Let's get out to our very own Cody Proctor. And Cody, tonight's one of those nights where you don't mind being outside because it's not that cold, right?
I mean, it's all perspective. Compared to a couple hours ago when I was out here, it's cooled down just a bit. Not much. We're actually about 48 degrees right now, but that wind's picked up a little bit more, at least here in the Outdoor Weather Center. And so it's a little cooler right now. I'm starting to see a little more of my breath, so hopefully that doesn't pop up on air as well. But it's pretty warm, pretty mild for us for this time of year. In fact, when we take a look at our almanac, our average for today is actually about 37 degrees, and we saw a high today about 53. So you can see a 16-degree difference. At least we didn't break a record that was set back in 1907 of 59 degrees. I'm okay with that, quite frankly. Now, right now for our current temperatures, it's still pretty mild across the region. We're at 48 degrees in Spokane and in Coeur d'Alene, 41 right now for Sandpoint, 49 over Wenatchee, 50s around Othello at the moment. We're heading into our overnight hours, looking to be mostly in the 40s with cloudy skies. However, be prepared for some of those winds to kick up. Our wind gusts might really pick up in our early morning hours, so just be prepared for that if you have plans in the morning. Then over the next 3 days, if you like the warmth, you're going to like the next 3 days. If you're like those that want to go on the ski hills or go ice skating, the next 3 days aren't going to be your favorite, since we're looking to be mostly in the 50s, but eventually we'll start to cool down. It's just going to take us some time.
All right, thanks very much. Still to come, Spokane City Council working to try and tackle the area's housing crisis. How they're making changes now to hopefully encourage some new building.
Plus, a little later on, an update on the Spokane firefighters. Not the Spokane Valley firefighters, but the Spokane City firefighters who were fired due to the state's vaccine mandate.